Hi, welcome to Introduction to Philosophy. I am your professor, Peter Anderson. We're going to be going over some just the prologue to what this class is going to be all about. And if you would, just go ahead and open up your syllabus. I'm just going to be going over some things, I'm going to be expecting from you guys, and also how to follow the class. So basically what I did is that I set up this class so that it's extremely easy to follow. If you go to, keep your syllabus on the side for a moment, but if you open up Canvas, and then as you can see, there's a new welcome page. I have everything according to weeks, week 1, week 2, all the way to, I think, week 6. The reason why there's not a week 7 is because that's going to be just basically your final exam. But if you ever get kind of lost, just go to modules on your Canvas, and then everything is going to be systematically down there for you. You're going to have your assignments, you're going to have your discussions, and then your PowerPoint, your lectures every single week. So just week 1, just kind of follow right along. And then if you do all that, you should be completely fine. So even if you look at week 1, that's coming up on the 25th, not on the 18th, apologize for that. So if you look on the 25th, we're going to have some assignments for that weekend. But I'm looking at it right now. So if you go to modules, for example, you will see that everything is just according to date, according to weeks. But I have like week 1 readings, week 1 assignment, discussion for week 1. Same thing with week 2 readings, journal, discussion, all of that. So basically I wanted to help you that way so that each week it gives you the assignment that I'm expecting you to do. What I would encourage you to do is just to get the reading done on 1 day, journal done on maybe 2 days, because some of these journals are going to be, 2 to 3 different chapters. And then after that, do the discussion. And if you follow along, don't get left behind, especially on these online classes. I've seen it before. Unfortunately, I've actually seen students who I think were probably extremely smart. They get left behind and they end up not doing nearly as well in the class. But students that are just very disciplined, and I mean, what I mean by discipline, I mean just have a system in place, and that's what these modules are here for. They end up doing very well. And I'm a very fair grader. If you work hard, I will work with you. If you don't work hard, I won't. But this is the book that I want you guys to get. If you've already opened your syllabus. So I've taught this class several times. I believe this is my fourth time. So what I often use is this Robert Solomon and Kathleen Higgins book. The 10th edition is great. That's the newest edition. I don't think they came up with the 11th edition, but what you can do, the 8th edition, I accept the 8th edition as well, the 9th edition. It'd be great if you have the 10th edition. It's just the newest one. But there's not going to be a lot of differences from the 8th, 9th, and 10th. I mean, I think there's a few more articles. They always improve it a little bit more each time, but I'm fine with it if you want to save money just getting the 8th edition. So what I'm going to talk about today is just, I just want to go over the syllabus and some things what assignments are going to be, what I'm going to be expecting of the assignments, what I'm looking for, and then also what I'll be looking for on your writing. So philosophy is really just, it's being able to briefly argue a point in a systematic way with in a way that's extremely as brief and as concise as possible. So good philosophy is not regurgitating a whole bunch of life experience per se, nor is it just being extremely so logical that no one can follow you. And it's also not, long-winded or wordy. Some of the best philosophical précis that have ever been done have been very concise, very brief. Sometimes, you look at William Blackburn and I'm not going to quote Immanuel Kant, but even people like Friedrich Nietzsche, who's one of my favorite philosophers because he was just so powerful and with his words and his vivid and his imagery. And then, you see some wonderful works that are done by Thomas Hobbes, you name, Aristotle, Plato. They all knew how to state an argument pretty quickly within just, a few pages even. Sometimes anywhere from, if you look at Thomas Aquinas, proofs for the existence of God was maybe 5 pages, a 5-page essay, maybe an 8-page essay, totally changed the influenced medieval philosophy for over 500 years. An 8-page essay did that. So so philosophy is really trying to think clearly and construct your thoughts in such a way where your search for meaning and what you want to state, your thesis, is all posited in the very, very beginning, and then you're arguing your point from there. I'm not expecting any of you at this point to give me like great philosophical works. Maybe some of you might, so I don't know. I may be speaking ahead of myself. But what philosophy is not so much in the length of what you're writing; it's more in the depth and how brief you want to make your points. You want to make your point. You want to make your points very brief and to the point. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. So the first thing, if you look at your syllabus, the class I'm just going to be introducing you to a number of philosophical traditions. At times, the class might seem a little kind of like a fire hose. It's not. One of the things that I like about this book in particular is that he's always constantly repeating himself throughout the book, and you can pretty much follow along. And that's one of the things I really like about it. It might seem like a fire hose, but hopefully you're going to be not too lost in the woods. But I'm going to be introducing you guys to a lot of philosophical concepts and traditions, especially in the classical formulations. You know, the joke is when it comes to philosophy that if you read Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, you've got 85% of philosophy. And that's, I don't know if that's as much of a joke as that. There's a lot of truth to that, because everything else after those men were basically regurgitations of some of their arguments, and other people just kind of whether they're arguing with whether or not God exists, and proof for the existence of God, to morality, to ethics, to beauty, to art, to you name it, was just kind of a regurgitation of a lot of what Aristotle and Plato especially just kind of put in place. I mean, so we will be talking a lot about some of the classical traditions of philosophy, but I will always try to make it relevant to modern day. One thing that we will tackle in the very beginning is trying to at least know what logical fallacies are, logical inconsistencies, what is an inconsistency, what is an inconsistency, what is a fallacy. So we'll really be starting on that. And we're going to be considering how various disciplines are really actually, they stem from philosophy. In fact, psychology is one of the things. I'm a therapist. It really stemmed from philosophy. And philosophy is just asking questions of the meaning of life. Who are we? So psychology is the study of the soul. Who are we? It's just coming at it from a very different approach. But for the most part, it can be often a type of philosophy on helping people answer life's questions. What is life's meaning? What's your relationship to your family? All of those things. Art, for example, whether you're watching Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones, or I think there's a new movie that's coming out where the woman falls in love with this monster. I forgot what the name of it was called, but you could immediately tell. I don't know how to pronounce the man's name. Did Pan's Labyrinth. I'm terrible. My Spanish accent is awful. I have Spanish friends. They always laugh at me when I try. So, but I can't remember his name. But anyway, same guy that did Pan's Labyrinth is doing this new film that's coming out. Or you look at M. Night Shyamalan, you name it. So there's all the film, for example, and art. You go to the art museum, their philosophy's all over the place. Just these existential questions are always being posited to the audience. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But by the end of the course, I'm hoping that you can see how philosophical traditions, some of the questions that we'll be asking, everywhere from God to meaning to ethics to life, very broad questions, but how they integrate through all the different disciplines that we practice, from the sciences to mathematics, to the arts, to dance, everything. Philosophy is extremely important. The reason I said it is because philosophy is also not studied as much as it used to be. And that's very unfortunate. A lot of people that you debate, a lot of people that you talk to, a lot of people that you have disagreements with, likely have never actually read a philosophy book. You will immediately, right after you start reading about fallacies, your eyes will become opened and you realize, oh my gosh, people use fallacies all the time. all the time. In fact, whenever you're reading, whether it could be it could be an actual good news article, it could be listening to the news, or it could be listening to a podcast, or it could be listening to your friend, or it could be having a beer with your friend, or whatever, having a beer and hearing some person kind of go off on political issues. You'll immediately have your eyes open. I'm going to frustrate everybody in the class in a good way. That you'll start to realize, oh my gosh, people are not very careful with their thinking. So I'm hoping that I'll frustrate you, and that you'll recognize bullshit everywhere. And so you might kind of be a little humbled in the very beginning. I think that's good. We need to be critical in our thinking, so that by the end of the class you can see what sound thinking looks like, and so that you'll be able to kind of know what a good argument is as well. The reason why I said this is because it's funny, because I actually tell you a little bit about myself. I used to be a very dogmatic, rigid person. I wasn't a very good listener. I always tell people this, but I always kind of throw people off. And what became the thing that changed my life is reading philosophy. I was very dogmatic. I was very, very opinionated. And then I started reading works by people that I strongly disagreed with, and they made a dang good argument. And I was extremely humbled because my dogmatism and my pride was just shattered. And that's what happens sometimes in philosophy. You'll be reading something by, I don't know if you're a liberal, you'll read something maybe by a conservative author like Ayn Rand, who I would encourage you, go look up YouTube, Ayn Rand, where she debates with, I forgot who she's debating, but and he's still alive. He's an anchor, but she's debating him on the effects of socialism, the negative effects in socialism. She's a strong free will capitalist, laissez-faire kind of capitalist, very, very, very libertarian conservative, and she just wipes the floor with him. Do I agree with everything that Ayn Rand says? Absolutely not. There's a lot of things that are just really problematic, but man, do I respect her. And I would get my butt kicked if I ever had debated her. I just would. And you all would. We all would. And that's what's kind of cool about philosophy, is that I'm getting excited, but it makes you such a good listener in that way, because you start to realize people that you may have written off were and are such careful thinkers. And you just respect them, and you realize, wow, I don't know as much as I thought I would. So I'm hoping to get that out of the class as well. I want to go ahead and end here pretty soon. I don't want to make this more than 15 minutes, but just if you look at the weeks, so we will, just the test will actually be on week 7. Ignore the modules. I know it only says week 6 up to week 6. I will have the test at the end. So what but before I talk about text, I wanted to. The text. I want to talk about the journals real quick, and then the discussions. So the journals, that's going to be really essential. So every week I want you to prepare 1 to 3 page journal on each chapter that you read, and you could look at journal summaries. And I want you to basically give me I'm looking for 3 things. I want you to give me, number 1, a summary of what the author said, what Solomon Higgins said, just real brief, maybe about 2 paragraphs. After that, I want you to tell me what they talked about. Give me an example. So, for example, if it was ethics, you don't have to talk about everything in the whole entire chapter, but just briefly summarize what his main point was about ethical theory. And so that's the first part. Second part, then after that, give me an example of what he used. And the third part, third and final part, then tell me what you thought about it. Okay, that's the key to philosophy, and I also teach ethics too. If you tell me what you think about stuff in the very beginning, I knock you off. All right, I just immediately knock off like 50%. The reason why I do that is it's not because I don't respect what your rhetorical opinion may be. The thing with philosophy, and this is what's very, very different from anything else, is that you have to prove to me and to your reader that you've read what you may disagree with or what you think about it. Okay, so that's listening right there. So immediately you're going to be better at your listening with your writing, is because if you can't earn the respect of what the writer says, you haven't earned my ears. All right, so you have to tell me what Solomon Higgins are saying first. Spend all your energy on that at the very beginning. Give me an example, and then, what do you think about it? All right, that's it. So that actually helps you immediately become better, much better philosophers. I realize that students usually struggle with that in the very beginning because they take a lot of arts classes, humanity classes, where they just kind of talk about all their bio and everything else, and they talk about what they think, and they get kind of thrown off in the first week because I'm like knocking off all these points. And don't be discouraged, but it's just that's what I'm looking for. You could see on the syllabus what I'm actually what I'm what I would consider as a good journal as well. And here's the thing: I try to get all the grades back within the week, and I try to return them right back to you, so that you pretty much know what I'm looking for. And I'm pretty transparent, pretty open. Discussion is pretty, it's pretty simple. It's just what you get, your grade will reflect what you put in the assignment. So if you give me one sentence, you will get 1 point. If you, okay. If you give me a few paragraphs and you're talking, all right, now here you can talk to your classmates. I want to see you guys debate in a good way. I want to see you guys discuss stuff. So some of these questions are going to be, do you think that the existence of God is essential to the ethical theory? I want you guys to disagree. I do. I want you guys to at least discuss stuff. I always want things to be polite. This isn't Facebook. So I want to see you guys struggle with these questions. And that's what I'm going to be looking for, the people that are actually engaged. A lot of my classes, that's how they're that's really how they're constructed. I always reward students that work, not the test takers, not the good test takers. If you're a good test taker, but you don't actually work, you're not going to do well. If you work hard, you're not a great test taker, you'll do well. Okay, and then finally, midterm and final. What I will be looking for is just, number one, I'll be giving you guys kind of like a study guide about the week ahead of the exams. I want you guys to just go over that study guide, and then I'll be asking you generally the same type of questions. So you want to be taking some notes on, and this is a big book. I won't lead you astray. This also says, finally, it's just a final paper, and that's the final paper is. I know it seems like it's a lot, but it's just 5 to 7 pages on a philosophy paper on any topic that's covered in the book. I'm only looking for about 4 to 6 resources. This isn't like a significant, research paper that's 20, 25 pages long. I just want, at the end of the, it's hopefully at this point, like you're so good at your journals, that is basically like a long journal, okay? So the paper is, but I want you to use some resources. I want you to I want to see that by the end of class that you know how to construct an argument. That's really what I'm looking for. If you look at the end of my syllabus, I went past the 15, sorry. Okay. If you look at the end of my syllabus, I use some examples. This is actually from Solomon and Higgins on what is good writing. Organizing, write simply. That's the thing with philosophy. A lot of students feel like when they're doing philosophy, they have to be really wordy and they have to be really profound or complex. This is not the case. Not the case at all. In fact, I just read a book by Harry Frankfurt. I wonder if I have that. Yep, right here. This one. Called On Bullshit. Harry Frankfurt, he used to teach at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. I don't think he uses I think the most complex word he uses in here is like characterization or something like that. I mean, that's about it. And he is super, super easy to follow, and it's extremely complex. It's very thin, as you can see. It's, no more than 60 pages. It's this small, so you'll read it very, very quickly. That's a good philosopher. Now, I'm not saying that you need to read 63 pages, but you just be simple. All right, you don't have to. You're not going to impress me. You're not going to impress your friends. Not going to impress anyone else. Just you don't have to be too profound. Don't work as hard. Just try to construct an argument and be as simple as you can. Be clear. Be human. So another thing about philosophy, and that I'm always looking for, and this is true by the end of your journal, you do want to be human. I do want to figure out. That's really where philosophy comes to life. Is when I say be human, give me some examples. That's where philosophy really takes on a life of its own. When you look at fallacies and stuff like that, they don't really take a life unless you can give some examples. So, like for example, like the false cause fallacy. So if you believe in the false cause fallacy, which is, well, it's a logical fallacy. It's no point whether or not you believe it or not. It just, it exists. So if false cause is just because something occurred doesn't mean it's true. Okay, that's a false cause fallacy. Just because this happened doesn't mean B will happen. Just because A happened doesn't necessitate that B will occur. Okay, well that doesn't make any sense. I mean, I just gave you the definition for those parts. But give me, okay, so what does a human definition look like? Well, a human definition would be, just because it's wet outside on the grass doesn't mean it rained last night. The old farmer used to say, don't mean it rained. I'm from the South. Just because it's wet on the grass don't mean it rained outside. All right, so that's a very human example. And he's right. He's right. He could have turned on the sprinkler. Dew could have came. All of his children could have come out and peed all over the grass. I don't know. So that's a false cause fallacy. But when I said A doesn't necessitate that B will occur, none of you were like, oh, I'm so impressed with his amazing skills. I'm sure you were with the Southern accent farmer, but you didn't really understand it until I made it human. The same thing with philosophy. You want to make it human in the end. Argue your point. So it never has to be belligerent. Never has to be nasty. That's the other thing. When you see it on Facebook, people always have all these fallacies because they're always attacking the person. They never actually attack the point. Okay. So I'm going to say something very provocative. I'm assuming not a lot of you are Trump supporters. I don't know. I'm in Massachusetts. Okay. So this is a fallacy. Trump said it, therefore it must not be true. That's a fallacy. Doesn't matter if he said it. If what he said was right, then okay. He said what? I lived in the Bible Belt, so people would say the same thing about Obama. Obama said it, therefore it must be untrue. Well, it doesn't matter if he said it. So argue your point. It doesn't matter who the person is. What is the point? And if the point's consistent, great. Yay. I'm glad what he said. If it's not, no. See how it kind of makes you less of an a-hole? So already. So, I mean, argue your point. Argue your point. It doesn't have to be personal. That's the other thing. Let me tell you something. I'm going a little bit longer than I will. I get excited when I teach this class. That's actually, at the end of the day, when you want to win a debate, you stick to that. You stick to the point. The minute you get like all bent out of shape and emotional and everything else, you actually lost. You've lost. You've already lost, unfortunately, because you're heated and you're angry. When you're heated and angry, you actually end up making really bad choices and decisions, and you say sometimes bad things. And let me say this: you say very inconsistent things. When you take a breath and be calm, it's not about your uncle who you're arguing with, or Uncle Tom, or your wife, or your husband. It's not really about them. It's not really about me. It's about the point itself. And let's just kind of analyze it. It becomes a lot less emotional, and you just kind of, it's okay. If you're inconsistent, that's okay. You learn something. That's good debating. And so that's how it makes us a little bit more compassionate. And then consider the objections and alternatives. Always be doing that with philosophy. You always want to be writing with a thought of thinking of the other side. You don't have to, again, you don't have to do all of this in a journal. I'm not saying that, but this is just kind of getting you on the train. And then if you do use specialized terms, always define them. So that's pretty much it. I mean, it's going to be real clear in the beginning. I'm going to be writing back to y'all, within the week, what I'm looking for in the journal. Just relax, do the best you can, summarize, give me an example, and then after that, tell me what you think. And then with discussion, have fun and discuss. Tests, I'll be talking to y'all about that when the time comes. And the paper is just basically, it's a long journal with resources. Okay, and it's really to prove to me that you know how to make an argument. I really am. I'm excited to have all you guys. This is gonna be fun, and I'm really looking forward. I've always had great reviews about this course, not because I'm so awesome. It's just because it really is a great course. Philosophy is just it really does it makes you a better person, in my opinion. So I went way over the time, 25 minutes, and look forward to seeing all of you. All right.